Welcome to the Winnie Podcast. This show is focused on empowering ranchers. Whether you're a seasoned rancher or just getting started, we'll guide you on how to use the infinite banking concept as an alternative way to finance your operations. It's a better way to think about money. Join us as we discuss planning for the future, attracting the next generation, and the art of keeping more money within the family. Here's your hosts, Reid and Lacy.
Welcome back to the Rancher Way Show. So I am Lacy Rowan, and today's show is a little bit different. It's personal because I'm sitting next to my main squeeze, my husband, Reid Rowan. So welcome to the show, Reid. It was pretty easy to convince you to come on here. So thank you for being here and being open to having a conversation about infinite banking and our life and all of the things. So you've heard me talk about farming without the bank and infinite banking, how it's changed our lives, how I help people, farming and ranching families, take back control of their finances. But what our listeners haven't heard is the reason why we ever started this journey down infinite banking road. And so today I'm sitting down with my husband, Reid. He is a retired professional rodeo cowboy, a journeyman welder, and a full-time rancher, a husband, a dad, all of the things. So he's the reason that we ultimately opened or started our first policy. You were the one that was doing the research or came across infinite banking. And I was a full-time stay-at-home mom, juggling the household and all the things. You were working off the ranch at the time. So this is the story behind our story, how infinite banking took root in our family, how one decision reshaped the way we handle our money and the way we raise our kids and the way we teach our kids about money. So saddle up, guys. This is going to be an honest, real, and it's probably my favorite conversation that I've had yet on the podcast. So let's get started. Welcome.
Thanks, I guess.
So take us back to when you first heard about infinite banking and what made it resonate for you. And yeah, just take us back.
Well, I think I was bailing, listening to the Working Cattle, I think.
Working Cows podcast.
And Mary Jo was on there. And at the time, we just purchased our place, and I was working off the ranch as well, and trying to figure all the numbers out, how they were actually going to work and how they were going to, how it was all going to work. And it just seemed crazy to me that all the money goes in the bank and stays in the bank, and what's left over gets to go to the government. And like, there's got to be a different way. And then I just assumed at the time, well, I'm going to get the book, but it's an American thing, so probably won't work here anyhow, but I wanted to know what it was about. So I ordered the book, and when it came in the mail, Lacy was like, "What's this? What kind of scam are you getting into this time?" And I read it, and I was like, well, if you're on board or not, we're doing it.
Right. So what would you say your initial reaction when you heard that Working Cows podcast? Were you excited? Were you skeptical? Were you hopeful? Something else? Like what was the initial? Because a lot of people, because it's so unheard of. So that initial reaction, what was it?
Well, a little of everything, but it was, a little bit pissed off, actually. Like, why? Why have I gone through 40 years of my life and not known about this? Because the picture would be so different had I started when I was 16. The other, a little bit skeptical because I hadn't heard of it. So this can't be right. Why haven't I heard of it? And is it some kind of scam? That's why I haven't heard of it.
Right. So what would you say, like at that time, like Sid was pretty small. Our youngest daughter, she was 2 at the time, I think. So what was our mindset toward finances and planning for the future, or planning for, retirement, if you want to call it that? What would you say our situation and our mindset toward that was that time?
Nothing.
Yeah.
No. We'd pot committed to the, like Lacy said, I worked in the oil field for 15 years and being gone all the time. And we're trying to figure out a way where I can make a living, but be at home. And my Uncle Brad had an opportunity there was a retired rancher that was wanting to sell his place, and was like, Uncle Brad was like, I don't want to take this on by myself, but if you want to join me, we can get at it. So yeah, we kind of pot committed to, okay, well, we're going to do this ag thing, but as soon as you go ag, instantly you get asset rich and cash poor, it seems like.
Right. Yeah. So at the time, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, the idea of RSPs and giving, control over to government and the market never really sat well with us. And I've always described it as this concept gave us hope that there was a way to be in control and to know that we were going to have what we needed to have when it was time for us to slow down. So that's kind of, that's how we got started in infinite banking. It's all because of Reid. And then the rest is kind of history, and we're 5 years in. And so let's talk about life before infinite banking and maybe after. And we kind of talked about this before. How did we manage our money or think about debt or financing? Like most people, if you need financing, you go to the bank. But what does that bring? Like I remember when we purchased one of your welding trucks, was a very disempowering experience at the bank because we had a hefty down payment, but they weren't going to help us out with the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, you always feel like you're going in begging for scraps because you've got your plan, and you've got, you can pay for whatever it is you're going to ask for the loan for. But yeah, you're asking permission. And if they don't think it's a good idea, well, then you're out.
Yeah, your hands are tied. And so what's been the biggest mindset shift after living this financial lifestyle for about 5 years now? What have you noticed the most in our household after implementing this?
The biggest change, I would say, is that I instantly think, okay, we gotta go buy some feed. I instantly think, okay, how can we use a policy, loan money to ourselves, get the feed and pay ourselves back rather than using the line of credit and spinning that circle over and over and over. Like, or one of the boys wanted to buy a vehicle. Okay, well, we can take a loan off of a policy and you can pay us back, keep it in the family bank. And yeah, you don't have to ask permission, because if your idea happens to be off the wall or not the norm, then the bank's going to tell you no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I've talked about that before, how we created a system of policies, so a family bank. So every member of our family has a policy, and whoever needs money, it doesn't come from just that person's policy. If there's money in a different policy, we take it from wherever we need to take it from. So that's a really cool thing. And our kids have, especially Sid, like she's grown up on Zoom with me and Winnie, and she's heard us talk about it so much. She just knows what a policy, she has an idea of what a policy is. And now that our oldest son, Zane, is 16, he actually is practicing it himself. He owns his own policy now, and he is funding it, and he's just got all kinds of plans. And that's a whole other episode, because he's actually agreed to do a podcast episode with me as well. So that's exciting. So as a rancher now, how do you see infinite banking fitting into the challenges that farmers and ranchers face with the banks?
Well, the long-term goal for me is we run yearlings. So how we run our deal is we buy our calves late fall, early like November, December-ish. We feed our calves till spring, then we kick out on grass. We grass them for the summer, and then we sell them in September, October. Anybody that's watched or been watching cattle markets know that a 500-pound calf is going to cost you a lot of money these days. And up until now, we've been running through a line of credit to do all our purchasing. And long term, I can't wait till all the cattle costs go through a policy.
Why? Why do you want the cattle costs to go through a policy? How does that benefit you?
Well, the other part of running yearlings is the market is very volatile almost all the time. It's up, down. If there comes a year, or when there comes a year where we take a loss, if we're running on our own money with our own bank, at that time, we don't have to make a huge payment.
Right.
Because you get to decide. There's not a payment plan. Like, you have a payment plan that you make yourself, but if the market crashed and there wasn't the money there to pay it back, you just wouldn't pay it back until recovery time, and then you start paying it back later, rather than being a couple million in the red and not knowing how to get out of it.
So there's more than one reason why you want to run calf purchases through with a policy loan. Speak to the generational wealth and getting your money working for you before you even make those purchases.
Yeah, well, that's the other part, is every dollar you put in there builds compounding interest for the life of your policy. So if you can get a big policy going where you're running that kind of numbers through it, when I kick off,
hopefully it's a long
the kids
time.
are going to they aren't going to have to hopefully buy the ranch again, right? Like, that's the crazy part. My great-granddad built the place. My granddad and uncles bought the place off him. Then my uncles bought the place again off of my grandpa.
Right.
Now we'll be buying it off my uncle.
So setting up that next generation to continue living the amazing lifestyle that comes with ranching, if they choose. At this point, we don't know. We don't know what the kids are doing. But setting them up for that, for the future, to have that choice.
Well, to have the option of building, right? Like, we're in the stage right now where we're just trying to pay for it. And if you didn't have to buy the initial place, that's when you get to start building a bigger place and bigger, and have enough to where multiple families can operate, because what we're doing now would be your add-on to what we've already got going for, say, one of the kids.
Right. Okay. A really great conversation. I think it's important. I can talk about infinite banking all day long and how biased I am, but I think it's really great for the listeners to hear a rancher's perspective of why you chose this route for our family and just kind of where it's taken us. So you've watched me go from learning about infinite banking after you purchased the book and handed it to me to becoming a licensed advisor. So what has that been like for you in that journey to see me go from full-time, hands-on, stay-at-home mom to, hey, I think there's an opportunity here, and this is really makes me tick I've always had an interest in, finances and money management, and it's just been something that I truly love. So what's it been like for you to see me go from, okay, I'm learning, yeah, let's put policies on everybody, and now this is what I do 5 days a week?
It's been cool with the relationships you've built with other practitioners and learning more. And not going to lie, there's days where it would be a lot easier if you weren't in the office, but I guess
everything comes with
we
the
managed
price.
to juggle and keep the balls all in the air when we need to. So, But yeah, no, it's been good, and makes it easier for me, because if I need a loan, I just knock on the door and say, hey, get me a loan.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking to that sense, it is that easy. Honestly, if you need to take a policy loan, it's that easy. Some companies you can do it yourself as a client. If you need your advisor's help, you don't have to tell us what you need a loan for. You just say, hey, can you help me take a policy loan? And nobody asks you what you need it for.
Yeah. And I guess the only thing you do have to get used to is that it isn't like going to the ATM and taking the cash out. There is a week or two, you got to plan ahead.
You have to plan.
So you know that, okay, the fertilizer bill's coming next month. Okay, we got to get a loan out for that and be ready for when it comes, that we have the funds available.
Right. So what do you think makes farmers and ranchers good candidates for infinite banking?
Well, just because we have so much, rent, you get paid once a year, and you have so many expenses that are going out, and you could set up a pretty big policy to where that calf check goes in and you can actually run off your own bank and gain compounding interest on that money forever.
Right.
Is the biggest thing, right? You get a however many hundreds of thousands dollar check for your calves in the fall, and 3 days later you have a little bit of it left because you've paid land loans, you've paid feed bills, you've paid all your expenses, your fuel, all the stuff over the year. And it's like, well, crap, I had this big check. Now I've got a little one that I get to survive on the rest of the year, where it is pretty sweet to put the whole thing in your bank. Yes, you draw out of it, but it's all building compound.
It's all working
It's all compounding for forever.
Yeah, it's working for you. And that's where that generational wealth piece comes in. And then just to throw on my life insurance advisor hat for 1 second and clarify, there are limitations to what size of policy everyone can have. There's limitations on how much you can put into the policy. And that's tailored specifically to each individual person's need and their situation, overall situation. And based on, goals that you have, that's where, we're trained as infinite banking, authorized practitioners. We know how to specifically build a policy in order to meet your needs and help you to attain your goals. And so just a little clarification there to make sure everybody knows that, every policy is tailored to you, specific, and we do have to adhere to the Insurance Council's regulations in order to remain compliant. And that is top priority in our practice. And so let's switch gears. Do you have anything else to add before I switch gears a little bit?
I don't think. Well, I guess the one to add to what you were just saying, there isn't a limitation on how many policies you can own, though. So if you can't get a policy big enough to completely satisfy what you're after, well, then you take out one on your wife that's a similar size. Or
right. You look for insurable interest. Yeah.
You can, there's ways to make it still happen.
Yeah. Business partners, spouses, kids, grandkids. We look for insurable interest. We just look for opportunities. Like Nelson would say, we look for bodies.
Yeah.
And he owned, I think it was 49 or 47 policies throughout his lifetime. So if that gives you any idea of what you can own. So let's shift the perspective a little bit. Let's talk about the cowboy perspective. So when I met you lots of years ago, you were a professional bareback rider. We met through mutual friends, actually. Robert Bowers was dating one of my childhood best friends. They introduced us way back when. So let's talk about that. Like, your professional rodeo career spanned like over 10 years. I think you were qualified at the CFR 10 times, maybe. I think it's 10. So 10 times. So your experience as a rodeo cowboy, that's who you were when I met you. That's how you lived a majority of your younger years and into your adult years. Like, our boys were young when you retired from rodeo. So how did your experience as a rodeo cowboy shape your views on like risk and money and independence? And if you had known about this back when in those days, what would look different, or what could you see could have happened?
So I guess, the possibilities are endless still. It would be a place though where when you win big at places where you'd have some place to put that money, no different than your calf check in the fall, to where, win 20,000 last week. Now it's building, it's compounding for the rest of my life because I put it into my policy.
What about, speak to, there's a lot of professional rodeo athletes that's all they know. That's all they've ever done. What if they implemented infinite banking and they took advantage of making every dollar that they won work for them? What could that look like for them when it does come that time for retirement and your role in the arena and when in the winner's circle is done?
Yeah, well, I guess, I haven't thought super hard about that part of it. But if you were managing what you'd accumulated, you probably would have a pretty good nest egg ready to start the next chapter.
Yeah. So
whatever that might be.
Like, you see lots of cowboys, cowgirls, they retire, but they go on to start businesses. So okay, then you're not going to the bank and saying, how much money can you give me? How much money will you give me to start this business? But if you've spent all of those years building and practicing infinite banking, so what you're saying is like, yeah, you would have that nest egg to just start that next part of your life.
Yeah. And you don't have to ask permission. You just, or even like for the timed events guys and whatever that are always working on young horses and new horses, and be pretty sweet to have that money that you borrow from yourself to buy that new colt. You build it up, you sell it, you put that money back in.
Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. Pretty soon you're playing with house money and you don't have to worry about it. If it's a raging hunk of crap and you gotta give it away, well,
okay.
Delete.
Okay. So before we get into, our final thoughts and wrapping up this episode, let's not talk about infinite banking, but let's talk about something more personal and strictly about the life insurance. How important is it to you? And then, what are your thoughts on just strictly having the life insurance in place? So our family, 2 years ago, blindsided with the cancer diagnosis. In that moment, when we were walking through that diagnosis, what did the life insurance mean to you? Knowing that we had it all in place.
Yeah, it was, well, at the time, there was never, we were coming through the other side regardless. That wasn't, and I'd said right off the, okay, well, what do we got to do to get you through this, and away we're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I get in the back of your mind, it's like, well, if this is what the Lord's plan is for right now, I guess at least we have, it would be where, okay, I don't have to go to work tomorrow to keep the boat afloat.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have a little breathing space to figure it out and carry on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not only, the life insurance perspective part of that, but the critical illness coverage that Winnie helped us put in place on both of us when we started this whole journey, that came in clutch for us. Unfortunately, my cancer diagnosis was to a stage that was considered life-threatening. There was no doubt in my mind that I was going to beat it because you give me a challenge and I'm going to face it head on. But critical illness coverage helped us walk through that entire year without one financial burden. But the life insurance piece of it, for me, I knew that I was going to fight with everything I had because I wasn't ready to leave my family. But I also knew that in the back of my mind, we had crossed the T's and dotted the I's. And that if my time, I'm going to get emotional. If my time on the earth was done, I knew that you and the kids would be okay financially. Everything was going to be taken care of, and that you wouldn't have to do much in order to provide the life for them. So when we set infinite banking aside, guys, like those of you who are listening, it's not just about infinite banking. It's about looking after our families and making sure those T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. And for me, that just put everything into perspective about what I do, not only for infinite banking and building that, keeping more of your hard-earned money, creating legacy for that next generation, passing on generational wealth, helping them live the lifestyle that we so much love if they choose to do that. Help them do that with more ease and simplicity. And so, yeah, it's not just about infinite banking, it also has that life insurance piece of it too, and making sure that our families are looked after. So, advice and final thoughts. So if you're talking to a fellow rancher or one of your old rodeo buddies, or maybe like a young up-and-comer rodeo star, what advice would you give to them? If they've learned about infinite banking and they're, what should we do? What advice?
Yeah, look long-term. Try and plan long-term, because the here and now, as far as like, especially like for rodeoing, your window's short. You think you got a long time, but 20 years goes by real fast if you're lucky to get that long. And yeah, when you are winning and doing good, yeah, you think, oh, there's never going to be a bad day. I've got 30 grand in my account. I've got my vehicle paid for and I'm just rolling on. But you're one wreck away from, okay, now I got to figure the rest of my days out. Or not even a wreck. You're just, one day you'll decide, okay, I'm done rodeoing. And if you've built your banking system to where you're your own banker, then it's going to be simple to carry on into the next thing.
Okay, so anything you want to say to the husbands or the wives that are quietly doing research behind the scenes and they're wanting to present this to their spouses?
Just go with your gut, right? If it is real, it does work. It isn't the mainstream way of thinking, but once you get into it, you'll be like, crap, we should have done this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whenever. Like, the sooner you get going, the better it will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Has this journey changed the way you look at our legacy and what we're passing on to the kids?
Oh, for sure. And I think one of the most exciting parts for me is, that we're going to be in the position to be able to help finance whatever dreams the kids are planning on. Right? We got 2 boys that are heading for hunting camp. Maybe some year they want to be outfitters. That'll take a buttload of money. But hopefully we can help, like, be in the position where we can help with that, or Sid with her horses, or if they want a ranch or whatever it might be.
Yeah, creating the bank of mom and dad, but not handing over everything to them without them having to work for it. And they do now. They come to us now and say, hey, just last week, one of them came to us and said, hey, is there enough money in a policy that I could do XYZ and create a repayment plan? And we had that conversation. So this is something that our entire family contributes to and talks about it and dreams of the possibilities of like what can be done. And so, yeah, I think this was a really good conversation. It gives it that perspective of the rancher, the cowboy, the one who is the brains behind the operation, because let's face it, I only help out whenever time allows me out of the office and, when I'm needed. And so, but I hear you and I hear Uncle Brad talk about all of the things. And so it's good for the listeners to get that perspective from somebody who's in it. You're in the trenches of ranching, you're in the daily operations, and how infinite banking started for you and what it's kind of looking like and what your dreams and goals of it for. So thank you for joining us on the podcast. I hope that a couple years down the road, we have another episode that just updates everybody on how it's all going. So thank you again. For our listeners, we appreciate you. You know what to do next. Head over to rancherway.com because your journey starts with this book that's behind us, Farming Without the Bank. This is the Canadian version. Rancherway.com. You can purchase it there. Send us questions, comments, feedback. Head over to Apple or Spotify. Give us a 5-star review. You can also watch this podcast on YouTube. If you're a visual person and you want to watch us, go to YouTube. Thank you again. That's all, folks.
Adios.
So glad you leaned in with us on the Winnie podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.